All right. We gonna learn today. What's going on? Okay. So, my previous video, uh, I, I, I spoke a bit about trauma, more so the trauma that I experienced, and then this video, I want to talk more so about what I've said in that video, which was trauma breeds transformation. So, I want this video to be about like how you become a transformer, like how do you transform um, from that trauma. So, because we can't simmer in that pain and suffering forever. Trust me, I know. I tried. It didn't work. The prison four walls need to be demolished. They need to be demolished. And if you don't already know what the prison four walls are, that is pain, suffering, fear, and death. Okay. Let's see if this tea is coldish enough for me to take a sip that's not gonna burn me. It's my favorite tea. It's called Sanbonan Rooibos. Oh, okay, that's good. Tastes good, but it's a bit hot. So, anyways, okay. So the title for I guess this video is transformation trauma breeds transformation. How to become a transformer. Okay, so where I want to start is that you as a person, as a human, you're a being, right? You have a being inside of you. You are a soul before you are human. And that soul energetically is energy. So you might find that if you're an anxious person, that means that that soul is feeling like it's stagnant. It's feeling like it's not doing what it needs to be doing. You're not focusing on the right things. You're distracted by your 9 to 5. You're distracted by your TikToks and your Instagrams, ingesting all of this content, but not doing anything. You're not physically working towards meeting that soul and becoming one, becoming a human being. You're stuck in the human self. The human self is stagnant. The human self is doubtful. The human self procrastinates. The human self will, block you and overthink you into a corner. So it's very important to fight that. And when you're anxious and your body feels so anxious, it's it's a sign. Listen to your body. Your body is telling you something. Everything is working for you. And the inverse of that is being in depression, being in the past, living in what was, um, and what happened to you, instead of taking the lessons from what happened and using that as the key to move forward. So basically, here I noted that being stagnant will make you ill. That's exactly what happened to me in 2024. I have a video up before this, so I spoke in depth about 2024. I don't want to live in that. So I'm just saying that mental illness is like a sign of stagnancy. So if you're suffering from a depression, an anxiety, a PTSD, a bipolar, an ADHD, any of these mental illnesses are actually a gift. They are telling you exactly what you need to be doing, exactly what you need to be focusing on, that you need to conquer first to get to the soul, to get to the being. Um, yeah, use everything as a sign for you. We have some tea, some more. We need more of this tea. So good. That first sip was so good. I wanted to drink more of it, but I don't want to burn. I hate slurping, and I heard myself slurp just now. Okay. So okay, so basically I broke it down into 7 parts basically, and 7 things that you can do to become a transformer basically. So the first thing is to crash out. First thing you need to do to be a transformer is to crash the fuck out. Crash out. Okay, if for those of you who don't know what crashing out is, I'm gonna find a definition. So it's a colloquial slang from America for some of my South Africans who don't know what crashing out is. Um, Let me see. Thought I googled this already. Crashing out. Okay. So basically, in slang terms, to crash out is to lose control, react impulsively, do something recklessly, often a negative outcome. Okay. Okay. They went a bit too far. They said negative outcome, meaning committing a crime or making a rash decision. We're not going to crash out that far. Okay. Hold it a bit back from there. So the crash out I'm talking about more so, let me see. It's so it's basically crashing out is basically living in where your feelings are, right? So where the anger is, where the rage is. I think a lot of us we stay away from the negative emotions because we were taught not to cry, or or not to feel our feelings. Like we were invalidated growing up. I know I was. So I found it very difficult to figure out what are emotions, how do I handle them, how do I self regulate, um, how do I, identify emotions and then know how to conquer them or get over them and not simmer and linger in the rumination of overthinking and constantly trying to get out of that emotion or avoid it. So, crashing out is basically going full rage mode, like going wherever the anger is, wherever the hurt is, and feeling those feelings completely. And then when you feel those feelings completely, you might, in people around you or people who are perpetuating what you're trying to conquer or what you're trying to get help and heal from, those are the people that you need to crash out with. The people who are making you, or who are affecting your peace, the people who are part of, you know the the environment that's not allowing you to heal. That's where you crash out. Where the toxicity is, where the and I think that's where people mistake it, right? Crashing out does not mean you must now crash out at everyone. No, you don't go around crashing out at people who have no business in the crash out. You crash out specifically, very very intentionally, in the area or the place that has hurt you the most. That's what I mean by crashing out. And then here I say lose control and feel everything all the way, right? So I think also within trying to deal with our emotions, we tend to want to control them more than wanting to feel them or wanting to get over them or wanting to heal from them. Instead of doing that, we avoid um, feeling the negative emotions, especially. Mm, this tea is going in. Okay, so rage as far as the path takes you. That's what I said. Meaning that where the trauma is. So let's say you have been sexually abused, you have been emotionally abused, you've been, whatever form of trauma. And it doesn't have to be that deep. Let's not forget that trauma is not only the big things. Trauma is also, like I said in the previous video, something as it can be significant to people, right? But in terms of the spectrum of trauma, the umbrella of trauma, it's a bit less in terms of intensity. Um, but you can be traumatized by, for example, your parents not coming to your sporting events, your parents not caring about your interests. That can traumatize you. You know, you not getting, let's say maybe you wanted to pursue, a creative career, and instead your parents wanted you to be a doctor, accountant, or whatever. That can traumatize you too. So you have to do a lot of introspection and figure out where the trauma is, where does it hurt, and from there you go where it hurts and you follow that path till you get to the rage, because wherever the trauma is, you will have rage for whoever has inflicted the trauma on you. But we don't end up going there because maybe it's somebody who you love. It's your mother, it's your father, it's your sister, it's your brother, it's whoever, right? Someone you care about. And that's where it becomes traumatizing, because most times people who traumatize us also are people who are close to us. So you might have a close relationship with this person and say you don't want to go there because you don't want to lose that relationship or lose that connection. But the only way to actually have an authentic connection with that person is to rage, is to go where it hurts, is to go where the pain is, because the relationship that you have has limitations, because you're not really living in your authentic self, where you're letting yourself feel and be honest about your feelings, be honest about what has happened, and where are you in life, like how are you feeling. Just have a bit of, should have done a testing, 1 2 3, and then I would be fine. I feel like the mic is not on, but I know it's on. That's just, that's my human self still. You see, your human self is always trying to put things in your mind and try to trick you. You just saw it happen in real time. Okay. So I said, living in pain and suffering can be addictive. So what I mean by that is that when you do go through trauma, you end up creating a personality that has to be like that in order to survive. So, for example, if you had a parent who was very critical of you, right, critical about everything that you do, you then you then try to mold yourself in a way that you will get the least amount of criticism that you can possibly get. So you'll try to mold yourself uh, in a way that will be palatable to whoever's criticizing you. So, because for example, for me, I'm trying to find an example now. It just escaped me. But regardless, the when you are being criticized, you will tend to. Oh, I have an example. So a lot of the time, people have told me, "Oh, what's your tone? What's your tone?" Like my tone offends people, right? And during my transformation process and getting to know myself and figuring myself out, I was like, you know what, so many people have told me to watch my tone, as if I should be walking on eggshells around people and their feelings and being responsible of other people's emotions. Why are you triggered by what I'm saying? How come you can't introspect for yourself and say, Lindela said something, I didn't like the tone. Why are you triggered? Why does that trigger you? Instead of people looking inwards, they want to police you and tell you how you should be doing things and what is right and what is wrong. But my tone has been like that my whole life. How do you not understand that maybe this is me, as in like my temperament, as in who I am? That's how I speak, that's how I communicate. So you're saying I should change to make you comfortable. What? Make that make sense? So, there's so many things like that where you can have learned behaviors and create a whole personality in order to satisfy other people. But that may not be who you truly are. I now know that my tone is the way it is because I'm judgment. I'm meant to shake people's spirits. I'm meant to make people uncomfortable. My tone should make you uncomfortable because that's supposed to propel you into introspecting in terms of whatever I've just said. Whatever I've just said that, made you triggered. Go to that path, follow that. Ask yourself questions. Why did I get offended? If someone else had said this, would I have been offended? What about that tone made it uncomfortable for me? What was said that has nothing to do with this conversation, that could be a past trigger, that has nothing to do with Ulindera, that I am now reactive about. So then the next part I say, if you don't want to be at the mercy of your past or the future, you have to actively fight the trauma and mental through trauma and mental illness. Okay, I'll explain that. So basically, what I'm saying here is that back to anxiety and depression. So anxiety is basically you in your mind, you living in the future. Excuse me. Your soul is anxious about what you need to be doing, your mission. Who are you? You're being distracted. And then if you're having anxiety, So if you're having depression, you're living in the past, and you are in the what is, right? So let's take those two things. Those two mental illnesses, you need to fight in order for you to kind of gain control, because you're kind of out of control, meaning that you're not in alignment. And that is why your body and your mind, so basically your soul and your body are not connected. So because they're not connected, you then are, everything around you basically is then not in alignment, because then the environment is triggering you in a specific way that is supposed to lead you to where you are, where you need to go, right? But if you don't fight, if you're not fighting through the anxiety, fighting through the depression, using that as a guide to where you need to go, like in your mind, where do you need to heal? Oh, this is such a great conversation. I love this kind of topic. And then I say here, you are the director of your own life. Don't be at the mercy of your thoughts. Slow down, feel the feelings, and sit in the discomfort, right? You have to feel everything. This thing of limiting the negative emotions and this toxic positivity, that's not it. It's okay to be sad. It's okay to be angry. It's okay to rage. Be angry. Angels and gods can feel the infinite amount of feelings, all the feelings that exist in the world, meaning rage. So being angry and raging is not against God. It's not against, who you should be, or, there's something wrong with being angry. No, rage, be angry, right? That is how you end up um, meeting yourself, because then you you can then know how to handle that rage, because you've gone through all of it, like you've gone to the deepest, darkest part of that emotion. So then you are more able to control when you have anger, because then you know how how far it goes, and then you can then know how to dial it back and be like, okay, I don't want to be reactive in this way, because I know from the past this is how far it goes. This is why I say you need to crash out. You need to go all the way, feel all the feelings, go all the way, because you won't know, like, you won't know how far you can go. You need to know how far you can go, right? It's kind of like buying a new car, and when you say open it up, that's what they call it. You just go on the road and you open it up. So that means like you drive really fast. I do not subscribe, or I'm not condoning this. I'm just saying it's something like that, where you want to test things all the way, because then when you can know the full spectrum of something, only then can you control it. So if you can feel the full spectrum of your emotions, only then can you control your emotions. Only then can you be like, that makes me angry, in your head when someone's saying something, but then you can control yourself and say, I don't need to react though. I can leave this conversation. I can maybe tell this person, let's talk a bit another time. You will be more conscious of your reactions, because then you know your emotions. But if you don't know your emotions, you're just tantruming. You basically end up being a tantruming child, because then you struggle to control your emotions. You struggle to self-regulate. You think other people should be the ones to 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 walk on eggshells for your emotions. That's not how life works. People should not be walking around for your emotions. You need to be able to control your emotions. You're the one in charge. Okay, so I spoke about what cashing out means. Okay, okay, I've spoken about that. So basically, now we are on point 2 of 7. Okay, so the second, I guess, the second thing that you need to do in order to become a transformer is to figure out what the limiting beliefs are in your mind. People in our lives, especially when you're a child growing up, but in general, people in our lives are constantly planting seeds based on what they say. So, for an example, if someone makes a comment about like your weight, right? Maybe you were okay about it. Maybe you gained weight, but you weren't that upset about it. And then an auntie, it's always an auntie, and then an auntie says, hey, usukhuluphele, kumnandi egoli, ne? Kumnandi egoli. Or in English, your aunt says, oh, you've gained weight. It's nice where you stay, right? Um, that can plant a seed to make you feel self-conscious or lose confidence in, your appearance, but only if you water it. People are always constantly planting seeds, but it's you who waters it, it's you who nurtures it, it's you who is the one who's kind of taking you know taking the baton and carry and running with it. um so basically you need to learn how to control that. And how do you do that? You need to write down all the limiting beliefs you have, everything that you believe in, God, religion, what, like, write everything that you believe in. And then from there, look through and see, what are the things that I don't want to believe in? What are the things that are not mine? If you don't want to be insecure about your body, then where does it stem from? Where did your insecurity start? Is it yourself? Is it somebody else's voice? As soon as you can figure out where it starts, where it comes from, then you can know how to then adjust and build that confidence. You can't build from nothing. Okay, so then I say here, what are the seeds which were planted that you are watering and nurturing? And then I say you have to kill your ego. It's an immature child. Your ego is an immature child. Everyone is walking around tantruming like children because they are living in their ego. Everything is affecting you. Everything offends you. Everything is just because why? You're a child emotionally. Just think of a child. A child is so sensitive. If you do something, they can cry. If literally you tell them one thing of just no, you can't have that right now. Next thing you know, the kid is crying because why? They can't regulate their emotions. They don't understand what's going on. And the same thing happens with adults. They either outburst, or they will say things out of turn, or they will again make sure that you are the one that has to take care of their own emotions. So it's important to understand, where are your beliefs coming from, which one is your voice, what is actually you, and what you've had to become to survive. And then I say, basically, this also leads to how you become, how you reprogram your brain, actually, because you have to kill the ego. You have to kill that ego, and the only way to do that is to understand where are these limiting beliefs. What are these beliefs? Like, what rules this ego? What is the thing that drives this ego? And those limiting beliefs tend to be what drives the ego. Those insecurities, those um why are you not enough, why aren't you worthy, all of those things are ruling how you react. So I say, be intentional about the media you consume and the people in your environment. Your environment, you're always taking things in. And in your environment, if you're taking things in that are not in alignment with who your soul is and where you're supposed to be and who you're supposed to be, who you were always meant to be. Because remember, when you're born to as a soul, right? You haven't really been orientated as a human. You're a soul, you've just arrived in a baby form. Then you arrive here, and you have parents, and unfortunately we have emotionally unequipped parents because they didn't have the resources. And it also even is a bigger picture when it comes to our black parents, because this is the repercussions of apartheid. All of the things that we're seeing are repercussions of apartheid. The lack of emotional intelligence, this is all repercussions of apartheid, because people are living in survival mode. They are just trying to make it, they're just trying to get by. They don't have the time to slow down and think about, why am I like this? What happened to me? What is my trauma? What can I work on? But it has to be prioritized. We have to prioritize the time itself, because just the same as you prioritize studying and furthering yourself, this is still furthering yourself. This works hand in hand with normal intelligence. By normal intelligence, I mean studies and academia. So by doing these things, you will reprogram your brain and your mind to believe that everything around you is working for you, and that leads you to who you are meant to be. So as soon as you take everything as a sign, everything as a stimulus to investigate more about yourself, learn more about yourself, um, the more you use your environment as a stimulus, the closer you get to who you're meant to be. Because between when we were born and who we were and yourself today, there's a lot of things that were imposed on you that are not really yours. um, you could be a person who's impatient, for an example, but you don't mind that you're impatient. Other people have made it an issue, and you, instead, for an example, I'm going to use that example because I am impatient. And what I've then done is I don't go to places where I can't make an appointment, or I have to stand in line, or I'm hungry and wait for too long and then don't eat, because when I'm hungry, I get hangry. So because I've taken the time to know that about myself, instead of resisting it, because some personality traits, we just have them and we can't control them, right? But we can manage how we behave in response to them. So what I do is, then, because I know that I'm going to be grumpy and not a fun person to be around because I'm impatient or I'm hungry. So if that happens, I now know beforehand to basically prevent it rather than wait for it to happen. So because I know that I'm impatient, I'll make a booking before I go to restaurants. I will make an appointment before I go to the doctor. I'm not just gonna walk in. So because I'm aware of it, I work around those things. But the only way to become aware of those things is to introspect, figure out what are those beliefs, or who are you as well? Who are you today, and who do you want to be next? Okay, next part. Then I said, starve the distractions and the limiting beliefs. Stop watering seeds that you don't want to grow. So just to close on this point, like I said, people will plant seeds in your mind, but it's up to you to decide what are you watering and what are you nurturing. Okay, so part three, number three of seven. Um, we are going. We are going. Okay. Tea is cold now. This is the temperature my sister likes to drink. uh, anyways, um, letting go of these. Okay, so basically, this next point is about letting go of these limiting beliefs. What did I say? Who do you want to be, and who have you been? So that's where I ended in the second point, anyways. So who do you want to be, and who are you meant to be? You basically also just need to draw or write a list. Again, I like lists. I'm a Virgo, okay. so so everything, actually, I have a few more lists on this. I think this video is all about lists. If you hate lists, hey, sorry, my bad. This was one. Okay, so make a list of who are you wanting to be, like, who, like, think back. What did you do when you were young? What are the things you loved? So for example, I used to scribble on pages. Like, I would scribble these curly things. Let me make an example. So I guess I loved writing or something. I don't know. I'll tell you now. So anyways, it would be like this. So it will be like this, basically, kind of making it seem like it's a sentence, but it's just scribbles, right? Because at the time I didn't know how to write. No, sorry, how to. I guess I didn't have the words to write. Basically, I didn't have the words to write. I could hold a pen, but I didn't. know how to write words yet. And I guess having seen what a book looks like and the spacing of words, that's how I figured out that you can do that on pages, right? But I'd scribble pages on pages. My mom would just walk in and be like, "Why are you scribbling?" Like, confused. Like, what the hell, dude? You just scribbling on pages? That's what you want to do with your time? That's fun to you? So when I think back to that, I always knew that I wanted to be a writer. I always knew that I wanted to be a writer. So when you do the who am I supposed to be list, that is you going back. What are the interests that you had? I used to love acting as well, because whenever the parents had like their friends over, I would like host a whole show. I'd be like, okay, guys, gonna pause, and I'm gonna come from the hallway, and like they would literally just let me hang, and I would do some concert or something. Um, but those are the things that I like to do, right? So I was always meant to be the person that I am now. But it took time in between to break down all those limiting beliefs, break down the prison four walls that I had, been struggling in, being a prisoner in, breaking through the trauma. All of those things helped me find who I was always meant to be. So this list of going back to what did I love, what are the things I do love even then, and even in future, what do I want to be in future? Make that list of who you are or who you want to be, and then you're gonna make a list of who you are now. What are the things now? Good and bad, limiting beliefs and bad. What do you want to keep? What do you want to throw away? Right? Make a list of today as is. And then between that, you'll see what the gap is. You'll see where it is that you need to work on, where the room of improvement is, in order to bridge that gap between who you are now and who you want to be. Okay, so next part. Then you basically want to let go, right? So how do you let go? You just you're I think everything I've already described that. So okay, again, I'm gonna repeat this point, but your soul is always talking to you, right? Um, your soul is always talking to you, and it's up to you to find. You, you have to work to understand the language that your soul is speaking. So your soul does not speak the way we speak, does not communicate in our frequency. That is why there's this misalignment. Your soul speaks in energy, and you speak in languages. Um, and you are not in touch with your sixth sense. So the sixth sense is instinct, right? Instinct is the sixth sense, something that I'm going to prove through psychology. I'm sure it's been proven already. I haven't done the research yet, but that is the sixth sense, not the movie y'all watched, not that movie you guys have. Um, and because you're not living in instinct and you're not in touch with your human instinct, which, funny enough, humans try so hard not to be primitive, only for them to be primitive. It is primitive for you not to live in instinct. You are an animal. Remember biology, mammals, and all of those? You too are an animal, highest of the food chain, and yet you're primitive because you're not living in instinct. You're not being ruled by instinct. Instinct is what actually brings you closer to your soul, brings you closer to energy, because that is the language that actually translates between you and your soul. Instinct. So, where was I with this? Oh, yeah, your soul is always talking to you. So, sometimes it's like giving you signs. Like, I'm going to make an example. I used to think I was clumsy. I used to think I was the clumsiest person, but I wasn't. That was always my soul and God speaking. I would drop things after thinking about something, or I would drop things after saying something specific. And now, because I'm more in touch with my instinct, I now know that no, I'm not clumsy. This is actually a sign of, my soul either agreeing to something, disagreeing with something, or highlighting something to me. Your soul is always speaking, even when it's those situations where you leave something at home. You're like, forgot this thing at home. Sometimes it's on purpose that happens, because your soul is trying to tell you something. Okay, so everything is happening for you, and it is a sign for you to course correct. Basically, that's what I said there. Then I say listening to the right thoughts is imperative. So it's very important for you to prioritize what being intentional about your thoughts and the thoughts that you let fester, most importantly, right? Basically, the overthinking part of it. So the rumination. Sometimes when you've gone through trauma, you overthink because you're trying to mold yourself to be palatable around the people who, are, whether they're strangers or not, just to be palatable to people. That is a trauma response, right? And when you do that, you basically are then out of sync with the soul. And then that can lead to overthinking in terms of you constantly thinking, oh, did I say the right thing? Is he going to think that I am stupid? Or, anything any of those negative thoughts that you have in your mind, those can fester and linger. And if you focus more on those, then you will see more of those things. You will feel more like that. And it basically it becomes confirmation bias. And basically, what I want to say is that you should focus on what you want to materialize. Don't focus on the things that either you're worrying about things that may not even happen, or you overthinking about people who would think something about you. Meanwhile, 9 times out of 10, people aren't even thinking about what you're thinking about. People are thinking about themselves, and they are also then thinking about themselves and how do they say certain things, and who is important and who isn't, and all of those things. So it's important to just slow down the thoughts, introspect, figure out why is it that you're thinking those things, try to control them in a way of you. I know that a thought just comes to you, right? But it's up to you. You can control how long it stays. So if you don't like the thought, replace it with a new one. If you're so distracted about it, find something that it can distract you away from that thought. Read a book, do something you love. you know Even if you just do a physical activity, just by doing like 30 what's this thing, jumping jacks, that can like quickly rewire your brain. That's like 30 seconds, that's a minute of time, just jumping 30 seconds. And trust me, that thought will be gone. You will no longer think about it. So find ways of being very intentional about what you're letting fester and what you're thinking, because yes, these thoughts come, by themselves, but it's up to you how long you want them to stay. um so then, okay, you are in control of your brain. Yeah, so basically those thoughts are determine what manifests in your life. So don't water things that you don't want to grow. Basically, between point 1 and 2, it's still resounding. Okay, so the fourth thing that you need to do is create your character. So that is like the most important thing out of this. No, I mean, all of these points are important, and I've put it in an order that is the best way. Each When I've done it 1 to 7, this order is also the best way to get to the person you want to be. Okay, so point 4, it says create your character, right? So who do you want to be? So it goes back to that list of who you want to be. And then I say, what is your moral compass? So this one digs a bit more into character, because now you did the list, you realized what the gap is. Creating the character is an action. The list is just you making an analysis, right? Which is why it's a different. That's why I put number 4 where it's at. Creating your character is an action, because this is then where you've done that list and you're using that list as a way of creating your character, right? And then in doing that, you have to actively be that person. The person you want to be, you need to first pretend, but not in a, I hate that saying that says, fake it till you make it. not like that, but more so like you are trying to embody the person that you want to be. So you are, each day you are trying to be that person. You're trying to be closer and closer to that person. So I'm just trying to find an example. So um let's take the impatience as an example. Or let me take hungry. Let me take hungry as an example. Um, let's say you don't want to be hungry. You don't want to be a person that's hungry in terms of your own. I don't mind being a hungry person, but let's just say you want to change that, right? Um, you would first have to figure out, what makes you hungry, like in which way do you become hungry, and then from there you then say, okay, I know that I get hungry when I haven't eaten for some time, and then someone is like making me. This is a bad example. I don't like that example. It's not working. Okay. How do I explain this? I'm finding it. I'm finding it. Um, let me just go back. I'm gonna say, what is your moral compass and what? Okay, let's just talk about the moral compass parts, and I think it will tie things together. Okay, what is your moral compass which keeps you on the path back to who you were before the trauma, right? So basically, by that I mean, so some people's moral compass is the Ten Commandments, for an example. Personally, I don't think that's a good moral compass, because a lot of those commandments are not in alignment with how gods are. So for an example, a god and an angel is a gluttonous being. So the fact that your Ten Commandments say gluttony is a sin, hate to break it to you, gods live infinitely. That in itself is gluttony. What do you mean it's a sin? That is literally God's will. God wants you to enjoy life to its fullest, because you are supposed to be a reflection of God. This world is a reflection of the small. It's a small example of God's love, because this world was created for God's children, and by that God's children I mean like God's angel children, like close family, the angels that are here, meaning myself included, right? So this was a gift from God to show angels how much God loves them. And then humans and angels are supposed to then work together so that they also experience the same love that God, you know, gifted everyone. That's how this thing is supposed to work. But now the moral compasses that you guys have on do not, guide you to your instinct self and your being, because you as a human are supposed to be living in instinct, and the soul, your soul should be the one that is the loudest, the most resounding, but you have lost in touch with the soul because you were molded into this matrix that we live in, these prison four walls that we live in, this pain and suffering and fear that we live in, right? That is what actually ends up ruling you. So instead of it being about your moral compass and who you are as a person, it's about that. And that should never be the focus. That should be a small speck in your life that shakes you into being who you were always meant to be. So for example, my moral compass is rich. Respect, integrity, character, and honor. Right? I've explained this in a couple of videos at this point, but I'll just repeat it just for, I guess, argument's sake. For me, my moral compass is that I arrive to myself with respect. So there's certain ways I do not speak to myself, um, in my thoughts. I do not go around saying I'm stupid to me if I make a mistake. If I do slip and say something like that, I self correct, because it does happen where you might still have residual things from what you were trying to unlearn, and that also takes time. So I do not speak to myself in a way that is disrespectful. and I do not let anyone else speak or treat me in a way that is disrespectful. Integrity, I do what I say. What is in here, 10 to 9 times out of 10, I'm going to say it. Um, because I'm honest, I'm living in alignment. I, you know, I'm living in purpose. So I have integrity in what I'm doing, how I'm doing it, how I'm treating people, constantly conscious of those things, being in alignment. Character, the character that I've created, someone who respects themselves, someone who moves with integrity. That is character. Honor, I honor who that character is, who is Ulindela, and you know, what kind of environment, what kind of um, things does Linda deserve? Like, is she, let's say, for example, if my house is dirty and I've, been living in it for like 2 or 3 days, I'm just like, does this align with who Udendela's character? No. Stand up and clean up. You know what I mean? So once you have a moral compass, you can also interrogate at which points you are swaying away from who you are meant to be. The moral compass is like your roadmap or your direction. It literally is your map to know where it is that you're going, and to kind of put yourself on check as well and be like, sissy, we don't say that anymore. you know, because then it's not in alignment with your moral compass. Okay, okay. Next one. Okay, so that covers number 4. So five is demolish the prison four walls. So I have a whole episode on the prison four walls. So I will not be going into this one. This one has its own video, and I don't want to do it at disservice. Number 6 as well has its own video, same video, but I will explain it high level. So number 5 is demolish the prison four walls. Number 6 is embrace ikigai, right? So I'm just going to explain the prison four walls. I think I've said it earlier in this video is pain, suffering, fear, and death, right? The ikigai, right, or what I like to call life's four walls. Life's four walls is joy, mission, vocation, and profession. So we understand joy, mission, okay, what your mission is. Um, Vocation, this is what you're good at. So find things that you love to do, right? Your hobbies, things that you're good at. So let's say you're good at soccer. Go back and do soccer then. Play soccer. Have a soccer team, a soccer club. Take your friends. If you like golf, do that. If you like creative stuff, go back. I remember that when I was doing my lists back when I was trying to figure myself out. I remembered that I loved puzzles, so I started buying them and started making them and got all these contraption thingies to have like I have a whole mat so that I can roll up the puzzle if I want to, and these little bowl things to separate the pieces. I'm basically healing my inner child by, feeding my soul. You don't feed your soul. You don't do the things that your soul really enjoys. 9 to 5 is not enjoyable, right? And then on weekends now you're drinking with your friends and that's it. You're never really feeding your soul. You're just living as a human. And that's why things are hollow. That's why you have anxiety and depression and you're sad and things just don't seem to be working out because you're not in alignment. So make a list of everything that makes you happy. I told you this video has a lot of lists. Make a list of everything that makes you happy. And in that you'll find what you're good at. In that you'll also then be able to, if you then take those things that make you happy and try each day to do at least one of them, that will feed your soul. If you love TLC and face scrubs and soft hot baths, then put it in your schedule. Maybe every second night you having like a spa evening or whatever the story, if that feeds your soul. But find and let it not be bad habits, guys. Come on. No binge watching series, no binge watching movies, no binge watching TikTok. That's just ingesting things. Create, bring things out. Those are more so the hobbies that you really need to be leaning into. What can you bring out into the world? Whether it's with your hands, creativity, drawing, writing, whatever, whether it's with your body, moving, soccer, something. But let this vocation one be something that is an action, not something that is passive. Yes, you can make a list of the passive things, that's fine, and it's fine for you to add those on a daily basis, but it really is way better and more important to have hobbies where you are you are energy, because the closest way to become closer to yourself and who you're meant to be is to be energy. Right now, you are stagnant. Stagnancy breeds mental illness, breeds trauma. It breeds, you get, being stuck in the prison four walls. We don't want to live there. We already know it's not nice. We already know what's happening. So rather, try hobbies that are actions, that are energy. Yeah, so that's 5 and 6. And then 7, which is the last one. Who are you and what's your purpose? I ask you this all the time. I don't think there's a video I've made that does not cover that. So again, I'll say it again. Ungubani. Who are you? And then you need to figure out who you are. And then you need to figure out what your purpose is. And everything I've said earlier, everything I've said, that will lead you to that number 7. If you do everything I've said in this video, that will lead you to number 7. How simple, how straightforward, how well articulated, right? I had to live it and be it and suffer through all of this for 30 years to figure this out. And now you have what, a 30-minute video. I don't know how long this video is, but now you have maybe an hour at most, to figure the life thing out. So the least you can do, after I've done all this work for 30 years, the least you can do and do your part, the least you can do for yourself, to listen to what I've said. Do those lists. I know they suck. I know. You hate it. You hate making lists. But this is your life we're talking about, right? And I want to leave you with something. I said this to a friend of mine earlier. I think it was over the weekend. Yesterday, actually. Yesterday. Because I went through what I went through in 2024, I was thinking a lot about life and the meaning of life, etc. And I was just thinking during that time, what if I die and then they replay my life as it is, right, as it was, and they replay my life as it should be, right? Because remember, I was already working towards who I was meant to be. I've been working towards this person for 30 years constantly, right? So I'm not saying it will take you 30 years, but I'm saying you should be patient. It will take time. You have time. You have nothing better to do than to figure yourself out and figure out what is this meaning of life. That is literally your purpose. So, anyways, I was saying, you get a replay of your life as is, and you get a replay of your life as is. You figure out you were suffering, depressed, you were numbing, because God knows, right? Knows how you actually feel and everything. So they'll replay with emotions. Then, um, let's say you get a replay of the life you should have had, right? And you figure out, and I'll make myself an example, you figure out that the life you should have had, based on the memory of your soul and who you were, and you know who you were always meant to be, you find out you were a triplet. Your brother is Beyonce. Your brother is Kendrick. Your sister is Beyonce. The spirit of them, their souls, or your siblings, and you're meant to go and see them perform and live life. Maybe travel with them. Who knows, right? Maybe you see that as the life you should have had. How bummed would you be to know that the whole time you spend your time as a human suffering in pain, and then you, instead of you finding out who you are and remembering who you are so you can meet your soul siblings on this earth and live the best life you could have lived, maybe you realize that you, in this life you were meant to be a millionaire, but now because you were busy in pain and suffering, you didn't get a chance to be a millionaire and travel the world and live your life. Imagine if that was like real. Imagine you get there at the end. After this game is over, you get there at the end and you realize you had literally everything. You're supposed to have everything, and you decided to stay in the prison for worlds because you were lazy to do the homework of figuring out who you are and what is your purpose. Imagine you for hey, you guys don't know. You don't know that heaven and hell is right here. You've literally arrived at the destination you should be in. The reason you feel like you were rushing towards something, you need to do something. Every time you're trying to rest, you don't feel rested because you're constantly feeling like there's something I'm supposed to be doing. That is your soul, baby. Your soul is telling you that you're not working, you're stagnant. So then your soul it becomes anxious. This is your soul inside shaking. Anxiety is a gift. Listen. So I would love to leave you with that because I don't know about you, but if I ever get a replay of the life I should have had, I would not want the regret and the shame of realizing that I was just lazy and sitting on my ass, not working emotionally to grow myself to become who I needed to be. I personally would never want to do that. So that's why I figured it out. Now it's up to you to do the same. So as I always say, thank you for interrupting this video journal. I hope that you got what you needed. Love and light. Bye.